Hello and welcome to this live session. I'm going to talk about some of the scams that people generally believe in, and nobody questions these scams because they think these are all done and dusted, scientific truths, and so on and so forth. Okay. Unfortunately, there are too many such scams going around. When we collect all these scams and look at it. Uh, and remove those scams, then the world that emerges in the absence of these scams looks very different than what we see it as now. Okay? Now, this may be offensive to some of you or many of you because there is no simple or polite way to tell people that they have dedicated their lives to an illusion. Not only just one illusion, but there are so many illusions to which we have dedicated our lives. So many of you may not make it past 3 or 4 slides, but I would say give it a try and see. Okay, why should I care? You should care to know these so-called conspiracy theories and seek proof or no proof, because we live in an unnatural, cooked up mental prison in this world. It is not a free world as you may be given to understand. Okay, and because we have been engaged in continuous entertainment and bombarded with fake news, which completely fill out our sense of reality or unreality. The true science has been substituted with a lot of fake science and scientism. So scientism is the belief in something as science without seeking a real proof of the foundation of those opinions. Okay. And unfortunately, because of all these things, the true magnificence of human life, it has been reduced to a sterile, meaningless, really rather dumb and very negative, no strength whatsoever, and some kind of a deranged existence as we live right now. So in Tamil they often say that the human mind is like a monkey which is fully drunk and bitten by a scorpion. So that is the kind of deranged existence we have. So once you, this may be sounding harsh to you, but once you understand some of the scams, you may be able to relate to what I'm saying. So if we do not break free from all these scams, it is really impossible to understand what is really going on in this reality. Okay, so we have to have a complete reboot. We have to go back to the basics of human existence. And we have to remove all the verifiably false ideas which have been planted into our heads for a very, very long time, and rebuild our sense of reality from the scratch. And not only rebuild our ideas of reality, but also as organized human life, we have to rebuild ourselves from the bottoms up. So it is an intense journey, but it's a really important and a necessary one. Not everyone is going to make it. That is unfortunately the reality. But since you are hearing this, I hope we will all make it through. So note that true knowledge always leads to more and more sense of freedom, prosperity and joy. Okay, this is the founding stone of the knowledge that we gain. You have to remove the false knowledge first through intense commonsensical approach and scientific inspection. It is much easier if you are less educated, rather less indoctrinated, then it is easier for you to break through the deceptions and reach the true nature of things. Okay, so let us go through some of the scams I am going to go through in this presentation. The first one is that we live on a flat, motionless plane. We do not know how big this world is, and we definitely are not living on a spinning ball. This is arguably the greatest scam that have been pushed into our head. We have to break this spell and see our world for what it is. a flat motionless plane. Okay, jet airplanes do not fly on fuel. They do take some fuel, but not a whole lot. It is just for starting and stopping, except that they fly on compressed air. Then chemtrails are real, and weather is already under human control. And this scam of global warming or global cooling is totally false. This notion of carbon dating, that we have some kind of technology through which we can actually predict the date of historical objects or fossils. This is false. We do not have any such technologies. We have only this radiocarbon dating scam. That's it. So we will see how it is. The atomic model is a falsehood. The very nature of reality is entirely built on this atomic model. This model has been successfully questioned by many people. We will see a little bit about that. There has been no nuclear weapon whatsoever, but there are directed energy weapons which are there. They are very real, and they are often used in the world. Our history has been completely falsified. There is nothing that you read in history books is really true. There is always some truthfulness in it, some mix and match, but the overall perspective, the overall understanding you come away after reading your history books, that is completely false. It is completely cooked up. So practically, if you look at what is going on, the common public knows very little or nothing about how things were just 150 or even 170 or 200 years ago. We have no idea. And we have devolved from a magnificent worldwide civilization which existed maybe about 200 years ago. We did not come from monkeys. Okay, and we are not living on a spinning bar. And arguably, we are living on a petrified remains of giant trees, animals, and humans. So this is a very interesting stuff. This is a big area of research which is going on right now. So, but it is completely blacked out by the mainstream media. We will see some of these. Blimp-based air travel, which is balloon, right? Balloon-based air travel is the safest and cheapest possible air travel ever. Again, this was stopped in its tracks because people can construct these things themselves and easily fly across oceans. Commercial blimp-based air travel was in existence till about 1920s. After that, this whole thing came to a grinding halt. Okay, the theory of evolution is false, and since that is false, if the theory of evolution is false, then we have to go back to the drawing board and see where did we come from. How is this entire realm came into existence? How did we end up in this flat, motionless plane? So we have to look at that. There is no real democracy in this world. Okay, so there is only a small group of people who are ruling this world. So we saw about wealth concentration in last couple of sessions. So we'll keep talking about this as we move along as well. In the olden days, at least the kings were given absolute power. So they had this moral obligation to people to rule them with justice. But today, if you look at it, the prime ministers and presidents are actually kings. If you look at Narendra Modi in India, everybody says, okay, we have to follow what Narendra Modi says, which is essentially obedience to a kingly person, right? The same case with United States. Whatever our friend Donald Trump says, that is what people look forward to and they obey. But unfortunately, unlike kings, these people have no penalty, morally or otherwise. They have no penalty because they come to power after people decide that such and such person should come to power. So they do things with impunity. The very concept of nation itself is a scam. Okay, it is simply a form of divide and rule because it is the same group of people which control all the nations across the world. And this is probably the hardest scam which you will find to overcome. You cannot become super rich by hard work, intelligence, and or luck. Even if you have all three, you are working hard, you are really smart, and you have lot of luck. Even if you have all three, you cannot become the part of the ruling elite. Okay, this is not possible. Then vaccines are ineffective, they are very harmful, and they always maim and kill. So I'm not sure whether we have time to look into these things, many of these things today, but this we will keep for another day. Today's world population is about just maybe, I think it is for about 4 billion. It is definitely not 7.5 billion. And this world has absolutely abundant resources. It is because of the wealth concentration and the negative attitude of the people at the top. The whole world is suffering. Your sickness drives today's healthcare system. So it is not even a sick care system. It is more of money-making system for everybody involved in that. So handing over your health to such a system is not a very good idea. So you have to take your health in your hand. Okay. Then governments don't care about people. They would just want to have no trouble from you so that they can continue to rule you without resistance. And most of the top actors and actresses, some of the top politicians, even sports figures are actually transgenders. They are not males or females, just like they are being projected as. Free energy devices exist. They have been in existence for a long time, and you can make many of these devices. Okay, and yes, this actually implies that the law of thermodynamics are not really true. And then bunch of references. So many of these things we may not be able to explain today, but we will keep this as a to-do list and then see how things go forward. Okay, so you have to keep this in mind. Whenever somebody says, yes, scientists said so, they have discovered it, that doesn't mean you have to believe in it. You have to seek some kind of a proof. Today we have ended up in such a bad situation where we believe in so many scams. It is because of this problem that we don't seek proof and we just depend and trust the authorities, especially the scientific authorities, right? So we blindly trust them, and that is what has led to this miserable state that we are in today. Research everything. That should be the right attitude. Research everything pretty deeply. Okay, so let us go into some of these points I have mentioned. So the first one is we live on a flat motionless plane. Why? Because there is no proof, definitive proof that exists for a spinning ball earth, meaning the entire heliocentric theory, the model of heliocentrism, right, where there is a sun in the middle and all the planets are going around and so on and so forth. So that particular model has no verifiable proof at all. If it really did exist, flat earth concepts would not have come up. If the proof for a spinning ball earth really existed, flat earth would not have come up at all. All practical distance measurements and curvature measurements show us a flat motionless plane. When you fly a commercial airplane, they do not dip their noses to account for the curvature. Even the fighter jets which fly 1500 nearly 1600 miles per hour, they don't even dip their noses to account for curvature. And as you know, water is always level. It maintains a completely flat level. So how this water is going to curve around a ball, that has never been shown. Everywhere the water is always flat. All kinds of laser measurements over water show a flat plane. It doesn't show any kind of curvature. And gyroscopes. Gyroscope is nothing but a spinning mass. So you take a wheel, small wheel, and spin it very fast around its center, and such a spinning wheel resists its change. Yeah, any positional change you make to a gyroscope wheel, it resists that change. So if you spin up a gyroscope and keep it on the floor, it should start moving because the earth is constantly supposed to be in motion, right? So in 24 hours, a spinning gyroscope should complete one full rotation if it is simply kept on the floor. But this is not the case. No mechanical gyroscope or any kind of gyroscope show any kind of motion of the earth. Yeah, it implies that the moon landings are big time hoaxes. We can't really work around that. And yes, NASA is lying, and so are all the space agencies across the world, including the Indian Space Research Organization. No satellite has ever been sent up. All the rockets simply go up and fall into the water nearby sea. That's all there is. So what kind of tests? So there are several kinds of tests done to see whether there is curvature on Earth. Okay, so there are long distance laser tests across several miles to see whether it gets blocked due to the curvature. Then we can look through the telescopes, and today we have a lot of super zoom cameras. You have P900, Nikon P900, and we have Nikon P1000, which has an incredible 125x or even more optical zooms. So you can zoom through these cameras and look at objects at a very long distance. Now they show objects which should not be visible at all because of the Earth's curvature. And there are high altitude infrared photography. People take camera, put a infrared filter, go on an aircraft, commercial flying, right? Go on a commercial flight and take very long distance photography. Then amateur rocket footages. Amateurs keep sending small rockets up, so they attach cameras to that, and those cameras show amazing pictures and videos. So then there is a lot of angle calculations with plumb lines, the bobs, right, which we use in construction industry very often to make sure that the building is 90-degree vertical to the floor. So all these experiments show a completely flat, motionless Earth. So curved surface is completely absent. Okay, so just to give you an idea of what these experiments are. So here is a photo where the person is showing 4 peaks. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 peaks, and here is the photograph of that. You can see the blue one is this one, and the second peak, third peak, like that. Okay, now if you map the distance wise lines, so the x-axis is the distance in kilometers, and this is altitude. So this is what you will see on a flat plane. Okay, so this is how much you will see on a flat plane. The same image, same thing is shown now over here. This is from Wellington. You can see the 4 heights, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are sorted in their heights actually. And these heights are exactly the same heights shown in the picture. You can see that the one is the blue line. Blue line is number 1. So even in this photo, the blue line is the topmost. If there is a curvature, then the furthest line over here, it would have dipped way below the green and possibly even below the yellow, and it won't be visible at all because there is a horizontal curve moving away from you, right? So this simple photograph shows that there is no visible curve at all, and these are adjusted for refraction and visibility. Okay, this is another amazing photograph where the visibility is there for very long distance. I think that is about 30 or 40 kilometers, I don't remember right now, but this is amazing visibility. It gives you a sense of flatness of the world. Okay, so the scope of this presentation is to expose you to this new way of looking at things, these scams. I'm not going to go in depth into each of these. Definitely for flat earth, I'm going to have a separate session where we will probably go through some 1 to maybe 3 sessions we can spend on flat earth alone. So I'm going to do that as time permits. Here we are just I'm giving you a gist of what each of these things are. Okay, so jets fly on compressed air, not on really fuel. Okay, so if you look at an Airbus A380, it is supposed to hold about 85,000 gallons of fuel, so which is 300,000 liters of fuel. Okay, so this is a huge amount of fuel, liquid. If you look at this photograph, this is a big water tanker, and even the fuel tanker is also of the same size. So about 12 to 18 of these huge tankers are supposed to fit in only on the wings of an A380 Airbus. Okay, so to give you an idea how much that amount of liquid is, here you look at a small pool, right, a circular pool, and this man is about 6 feet. This particular huge container holds about 25,000 gallons, right, and we are talking about 85,000 gallons of fuel which is supposed to be there on the wings of the Airbus 380. And here is Airbus 380. Do you really think that much fuel is going to fit into these thin wings? In addition to all the support structures, mechanical structures. And this is supposed to hold 4 of the previously shown round swimming pools in these 2 wings. And if you just convert it visually, if you convert that into 18 fuel trucks, right, and calibrate it to size, this is how much fuel is supposed to be there in these 2 thin wings. Okay, so I'm sure you can straight away see that this is not possible at all. And there is a lot of things we can talk about in terms of the structure of these turbines and why they actually use compressed air and how they are going to use it and so on and so forth. When they refill fuel in the airports, there is some fuel filled up for initiating the combustion and then in running the internal combustion engine which is there at the belly of this aircraft. But apart from that, there is no fuel. You only have compressed air tanks along these wings. Okay. Alright, so next is chemtrails and geoengineering. Chemtrails are very real. Okay, and they have been happening for a very long time. So governments are not anymore denying it. Now it is just in public knowledge. They simply acknowledge that yes, we have been spraying chemtrails in the atmosphere for a long time. So what are you going to do? Nothing. So these chemtrails have lot of heavy metals. You have barium, strontium, aluminium, and so on and so forth. And when these particles actually settle down on, you can see so many aircrafts spraying chemtrails across everywhere. And you can see this here. There is a plane which is going across with streaking with a chemtrail. Okay, this is the problem. This is pretty bad. If you look at it, look at this chemtrail. It has been going from this place to over here. It is just traveling across the air, but it is not dissipating. It is staying there only. I just can't wrap my head around the fact that we live in a world where people make actually fun of people because they don't think this is normal. Okay, so everything becomes a conspiracy theory these days. People don't even look up and they don't even understand. They can't really differentiate between what is a fact and what is a fiction, right? What is an assumption? These are not assumptions. If you look up the sky, you see all these things going on, and then you should question it. Unfortunately, that is not really happening. And weather control. So, US government has been pursuing HARP, high frequency active auroral research program, for a very long time. So the principal research was done by Nikola Tesla quite some time back. I think he called it as a scalar wave technology. So after that, they started using very similar technologies to induce rains in early days. Later on, the entire climate change, weather control technologies have been militarized and completely taken off from any civil domains. Okay, and there is an enormous amount of power they put out, 3.6 million kilowatt of power through these waves, which manipulate the weather. Again, it is there all over the world. Most of the countries use these weather manipulation technologies, and China is the leader of the pack. They produce about 55 billion tons of artificial rain per year. And nobody has done much research into what are the really long-term consequences of these weather modification engineering technologies, right? It has not been studied well, or they have studied well, but it is not there in the public domain at all. So there are a lot of very strange things that keep happening. Okay, you have multicolored clouds, you have unexplained tsunamis. Suddenly there is a tsunami. They say there is an earthquake somewhere in the sea, but I mean, nobody can really verify that that is the case or not. So very violent out of the season weather. In Japan, people often say that they see these multicolored clouds. When they see it in the sky, then very likely there is going to be an earthquake within some 100 kilometers radius. Okay, they say this. But this is just a people saying. There is no verification of this. And here is the HARP station in Alaska, which is set up by United States government. These are like massive antennas. So if you look at this, this is a building, a full proper building, right? So these are like doors. You can see the size of these antennas, massive. And these HARP stations are now in many places in the world. There is one in South India, very close to where I am living. This is in Gadanki, Andhra Pradesh. So, of course, they don't really say that these are weather modification stuff. They usually say these are upper atmosphere research centers, right? That is what they say. Or they can say this is a radar facility. Okay, so this particular station is named as National MST Radar Facility, and this is operated by the National Atmospheric Research Lab of India. But you can see that the antenna structure is exactly the same. There is no difference. And this has nothing to do with any conventional radar technologies, which usually have parabolic antennas. Okay, so you can go ahead and research all these things. HARP. There is a lot of material available online. Now let's take a look at the global warming scam. Okay, it is a proper scam because in 1977, this is the cover of Time magazine, the big freeze, right? They are saying they have been telling people at that time that there is a big freeze coming and you have to prepare for it. Most of the northern part of the world is going to become uninhabitable, and the world is going to end by year 2000. And there is so much of total crap they have been writing at that time. Okay, but then by 2007, which is like 30 years, yeah, 30 years later, this cover appears. The Global Warming Survival Guide. 51 things you can do to make a difference. Hey, make up your mind, right? They have to make up their mind. You see, are we going to freeze to death or are we going to burn to death? They have to really make up their mind. Okay, let us see some scientific information why this is a big scam. This is the 10,000 year old temperature difference. So the x-axis is 10,000 years of timeline, and this y-axis is the temperature variations. If you look at it, this small part is the present age of temperature changes. So very similar temperature changes have been happening over a long period of time, and we haven't even reached the high temperatures which our earth has seen earlier. Okay, so again these are like average near surface temperatures of the northern hemisphere during the past 11,000 years. So these are all estimations based on some kind of thing, right? Ice core based thing, or tree ring based estimations, and there are a few methods to calculate these things. And this is another interesting graph. So this shows the relationship between the carbon dioxide amount and the temperature. So the red curve shows you the temperature, and then the blue curve shows the amount of carbon dioxide. So as you move from right to left, we move towards the current age, current time. Okay, so you can see that the temperature was dropping. Again, it was climbing up, and then comes down. But interesting fact is the carbon dioxide amount in the atmosphere actually lags behind. So first the temperature goes up, and then the carbon dioxide starts going up. It lags the temperature by some 800 years. So this confirms that carbon dioxide is not the forcing that initially drives the climate system during a deglaciation, right? So again, this data, all these charts have been taken from IPCC, the government agency, Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. So this comes from government. It is not from private at all. So here is the other graph which shows that there is no correlation between carbon dioxide and the temperature change, but there is a very clear correlation between the sun's and the climate change and the earth's temperature. So you can see watts per meter square. This shows the sun's temperature, the energy put out by the sun, and this also is the parts per million of carbon dioxide. On this side you have the temperature changes of earth. So this is for over the last 1,000 years. Okay, so as you can see clearly, when the sun's temperature rises, the earth's temperature also rises, but there is no correlation with carbon dioxide at all. It simply has no relevance, no correlation. It just moves up. That's it. So here you can see that even though the carbon dioxide was increasing, there is a sudden increase in the temperature along with the sun's temperature. Okay, and this one really takes it to the perfection to show that this is a scam. So these are the sunspot activities minima. So this is how much sunspot activities happen on a year to year basis, and this is again for nearly 1,000 years, right? 2,000 back to 900 years. So you can see that the sunspot activity, whenever it keeps on going up, the temperatures keep going up as well. And most relevant of all is this very small graph. Okay, so this shows the contribution to the greenhouse effects of all the things, right? So these are all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things which actually contribute the global warming, out of which the water vapor contributes about 90% of it. Among this 90%, man-made industrial water vapor, or all the water vapor produced due to actions taken by man, is just 0.001%. That's all. And the carbon dioxide is only 0.117% of the total carbon dioxide produced in nature. This is the 0.117 percentage is what we produce due to industrialization and so on and so forth. Nature produces the rest of the gases. So methane and other gases we don't even need to talk about. So if you really look at it, water vapor is the key element in determining the warming or cooling effect of the climate. Okay, and this bodes very well with the theory that the sun's temperature drives the earth's temperature. So that's it. I mean, this is fairly straightforward stuff. There are so many other data points and charts which correlates further to this to these facts. Okay, so please go ahead and explore this. And definitely this global warming is one of the biggest scams we have. The main goal is again to funnel money through carbon taxing, which is a real goal, right? You create a scam, the end state of that scam is always tied to money, tied to economic activity and concentration of wealth. Okay, the carbon dating scam. So radiocarbon dating has been here since the 1940s. They discovered that, they invented, I think it is more of inventor because anyway it is a scam. So you have radiocarbon dating based on the carbon-14 isotope decay. And they use this carbon dating for up to 50,000 or even 100,000 years. And they use a uranium decay method to daughter isotopes for a few 100,000 years. Okay, so basically the sunlight changes nitrogen to the carbon-14 isotope, and it takes about I think 22 kgs or 22 pounds. I'm not sure. I think it's maybe anyway. It is very small amount that becomes carbon-14 from nitrogen. Okay, so this is the production of it. So in 1976. Dr. Gentry published his study based on the uranium decay to polonium in the Science magazine, and in which he clearly claimed that the coal could form very rapidly in geological time in a few thousand years, not in millions of years. Okay, so even today it has not been challenged. There is just a dead silence in the industry. So here is a small explanation of carbon decay. I think we'll skip this. This is not needed. So the half-life of a carbon-14 is about 5,700 years. Okay, this is a half-life. If that is the case, then if a sample comes which is 250 thousand years or older, then there cannot be any carbon atoms in it at all, because the amount of carbon 14 C14 itself is extremely small in relation to the total carbon present. It is only 0.0000765% when it is fresh, meaning if your body is there in the atmosphere, the carbon-14 in the atmosphere and in your body, it is supposed to be the same. Once you go under the soil, then your body stops accumulating the carbon-14, and then the difference between the carbon-14 in our body and the atmosphere, it starts increasing. That's the idea, right? So the funny part is if the half-life of carbon 14 radiation is about 5,700 years, in about 250,000 years, it should be impossible to find the carbon 14 in any of the fossils, which which we dig up from very deep from the earth. But that is not really the case. Even the supposedly ice age fossils and the rocks which we dig up from earth, they do contain carbon 14, and not in small quantities but in big quantities. So this cannot happen. So this is after accounting for all the contamination and so on and so forth, right? So even if you ensure that the contamination is minimal, even then this anomaly in the measurements happen. So another important part is there has to be an equilibrium in carbon 14 formation and its disappearance. Carbon 14 is formed in the atmosphere because of the nitrogen to carbon transition due to sunlight, right? And then the carbon 14 decays into carbon naturally. It doesn't want to stay in the isotope form. So like a drum having two holes, right? On the top you keep pouring water into the drum, and then at the bottom there is a hole in the drum through which the water keeps going away. So at some point, after some time, there will be an equilibrium between incoming water and the outgoing water, and there will be some level of water that will be perpetually maintained, provided the incoming and outgoing flows are constant. So very similar to this, the carbon 14 formation in the atmosphere and its decay into regular carbon, it should have reached an equilibrium at some point in the past. Okay, so they say in the scientific literature, with various kind of explanation and research, they say that this particular equilibrium was reached some 30,000 years ago, meaning after that 30,000 years, we know how much carbon is there in the atmosphere, right? Unfortunately, the latest research showed that the radiocarbon is forming 28 to 37% faster than it is decaying, which means that the equilibrium state was never reached, which means that the Earth is less than 30,000 years old. And it also implies that the carbon dating cannot be applied at all, because we don't even know how much carbon 14 was there when something lived, right? Without knowing how much carbon 14 was there when something died, how can we today say that it is some 10,000 years old, right? We cannot say, because we don't even know the starting quantity. Very funnily, even diamonds are having carbon 14 in them. Okay, this is an impossibility, because they say that diamonds take millions of years to form. And any carbon 14 which is trapped inside the diamond, which is the hardest material occurring naturally, right? If it is there inside diamond, it would have radiated away a very, very long time ago. So any diamond must be completely free of this carbon 14 isotope. But that is not the case. We have been finding carbon 14 inside pretty much all the diamond we dig up from the earth. So here is the very nice correlation, right? It's an explanation. So you have a candle, and the candle is burning down at a rate of say 1 inch per hour. Okay, and we are supposed to predict how much of candle has already burnt. Now the real questions we should ask is, how tall was the candle to begin with? We don't know that. We don't know how much of carbon 14 was there to begin with. And then, has it always burnt at the same rate? Has the carbon 14 been decaying at the same rate? No, the decay rate keeps varying now and here and there. So we don't know. So the entire carbon dating method itself is fundamentally wrong. This cannot be done, right? Sure enough, it is reflecting in all kind of research works in the literature. You know, there is the lower leg of Fairbanks Creek mammoth. It has been dated as 15,380 years old. but its skin is dated as 21,300 years old. I don't know how a mammoth can live that long years apart, in different parts of its body. Okay, and people have tested the living mollusk shells. They put it through this carbon dating, and it says the method comes back from the lab. The lab result comes back saying that it is some 2,300 years old. These are scientifically published results. Okay, I am not cooking this up. you can go and look up these things. And a freshly killed seal was carbon dated, and it was said that it has died some 1,300 years ago. In Antarctic Journal it was mentioned. And shells from living snails were carbon dated, and they were said that they lived 27,000 years ago. And here is a very interesting thing. The last 2 years an absolute date has been obtained for some location, and it has been the very interesting value of 300,000 years plus or minus 300,000 years. So practically saying, this could have formed just yesterday, or it would have been formed some 300,000 years ago, or I don't know what I am saying. All are possible. So here is a professor who has been cheating for some 30 years. He resigned after that. So he carbon dated some skeletons as 21,300 years old. But then the Oxford showed that they are 3,300 years old. But the really interesting part is, I don't know whether the professor was wrong or this Oxford was wrong. It could be either way. But anyway, they made the professor resign and he is gone. And this is as recent as 2005. Okay, so this scam has not advanced into reality or truthfulness even now. And the Russian scientists, two guys, carbon dated a dinosaur bone. These are dinosaur bones. They said that it was just 30,000 years ago. And then another group, Hughes, Miller, Columbus, and so on, they looked at 4 dinosaur bones, and they said that it is 20,000 years old. And because they were never told that these bones were dinosaur bones. Anyway, dinosaurs never existed in reality. Okay, so that is also another hoax. There were no dinosaurs on this realm at all. Then moon rocks. Of course, nobody went to the moon. That itself is a scam. So they split this moon rock into 6 pieces and dated many. They kept on dating it across different labs, and they come up with different numbers: 2.5 billion to 4.6 billion years, and so on and so forth. These numbers are completely random. There's no reality to any of this. Anyway, so the moon rock given as a present to, I think it is Netherlands, I think, by the astronaut Neil Armstrong. It has been found as petrified wood, and they threw it off. Okay, so the another method, potassium argon, right? It is the same kind of radio decay. This potassium has much slower rate of decay. So they use this transition also for dating method, as a dating method. But unfortunately, potassium can leach away from samples just by washing the meteorite iron, right, with normal distilled water. You can remove 80% of the potassium from that in just 4.5 hours. So this method again suffers fundamental problems, just like the carbon dating and uranium dating radioisotope methods. So if you look at here is a tree trunk. Okay, so it's a long tree stem, and the lower strata, what you see here, is tens of thousands of years older than the strata above. Meaning the lower part of the tree must have gone into this one, and this upper part must have stood exposed to atmosphere for thousands of years before the upper layers formed. Okay, so I'm sure you can imagine that it is an impossibility with all kind of weather condition, erosion, water, sunlight. If anything exposed for 1,000 years would have weathered away, but no, even after tens of thousands of years of time, this entire tree was perfectly petrified and present across these layers which formed over the tens of thousands of years. Obviously, that is an impossibility. And here is another example. So each of these layers are supposed to have formed over millions of years, not just thousands but millions. Unfortunately, this particular tree trunk was found completely embedded in this place. Okay, so and it was not what you say inserted into this space. It was there. They found it as it was. And the petrification and fossilization can happen very rapidly in terms of geological time. So these are the World War I tanks, which are hardly some 100 years old, and they have already petrified quite a bit. If you can look at it, they are already integrating. The iron was already integrating with the surrounding material, the soil, and they are already hardening away. Okay, so the speed at which the real metamorphosis, right, happens in geology is very rapid, and all these carbon dating methods and all these scams of saying millions of years, these are absolute. They have absolutely no scientific basis. Okay, so that's it. Again, we can go into multiple hours of discussion on the fallacy of this carbon dating and other, general radioactive dating methods. But for this presentation, you got an idea, I hope. Okay, so let's look at the fallacy of atomic theory. The atomic theory came about. Why did people really think of the atomic theory, right? It all started when they discovered electricity, basically. That itself is a big question mark. Who discovered electricity by when? That itself is a big question mark. But let us give credit as the history says, right? J.J. Thomson was the first guy who invented the electron or discovered the electron. He actually vehemently denied the idea that electron is a particle until the time he was offered the Nobel Prize. Then he actually switched over his position and said that I see your point, and electron may be a particle. The Nikola Tesla then said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. You can see that this atomic model is absent here, and the atomic model has many variations. You can talk about Rutherford's model, Dalton's model, Bohr's atomic model, and so on and so forth. So whoever could think of a model, they used to publish papers on that at that time. Okay, so the discovery of electricity kick-started this discussion about an atomic model. Okay, Einstein himself did not believe in the atomic model. He said that I have now struggled with this basic problem of electricity for more than 20 years and have become quite discouraged, though without being able to let go of it. I am convinced that a completely new and enlightening inspiration is needed, meaning he no longer thinks the atomic model is valid. Okay, so Einstein explaining why physicists don't like electricity and why astronomers call cosmic electricity magnetic fields. Okay, so even Heaviside said the idea of electricity as a flow of electrons in a conductor was regarded by Oliver Heaviside as a psychosis. And Dr. Steve Biller said electrons as a separate distinct entity doesn't really exist. They are merely bumps in something called a field. So Nikola Tesla often talked about the absurdity of electrons. So he didn't believe in the existence of the electrons as pictured in conventional science. He maintained through experimentation and practical reasoning that if it does exist at all, it does so only in a perfect vacuum. He goes on to say the absurd numbers and the conditions under which the electron can maintain its bubble. Okay, so this is blah blah number, right? It's a big number, times greater than the tension that tungsten wire can withstand, and yet it does not burst. So you can read these things. So all these people, the cathode ray tube, when that was discovered, that is when all this particle physics came to a peak. So all these people, Nikola Tesla, Heaviside, James Clerk Maxwell, Steinmetz, and he is one of the greatest scientists ever lived, along with Maxwell. He said no, this atomic theory and electron as a particle, it is not something real. And even J.J. Thomson said no, but changed his mind under pressure. None of the electrical pioneers from Faraday to Tesla ever used the word electron until Thomson's discovery. The socket in the wall that we all take for granted is the work of the names above. All of our modern electrical technology can be traced back to these names and their contemporaries. So once the electron as a particle came about, the entire atomic model was born, and we just proceeded from there. Yeah, this is what it is, but none of this is real. We don't even know how matter works. So I think, as Tesla said, it is just a energy, probably just a frequency, energy and vibration. So we may have to really rethink it. Even the speed of light has many problems. Okay, so it is more of a dielectric induction. Whether the speed of light has 300,000 miles per hour, that itself is being challenged. Okay, so the next one is nuclear weapons don't really exist, because even in the old nuclear blast footages, the blast comes from backside of the camera, but nothing really happens to the camera, which is amazing, because the whole thing was shot in sets. If you go back and look at this footage now, you can clearly, immediately you will say that, oh, this is just a set, this is not real. So all the nuclear tests that were conducted, they were conducted using conventional explosives. They always tell the military to prepare another site where they put out all these conventional explosive like TNT, dynamite and so on, by telling the military people that, yeah, this is a, what do you say, backup site kind of, and the real nuclear site is nearby. Okay, but in reality they actually explode this and show that as a nuclear weapons test. And in reality Hiroshima and Nagasaki were firebombed. Okay, so there was no atomic blast that happened over there. So even if you take a Geiger counter after conventional explosive, there you can find residual radiation. And also they talked about so much of infant deformities that will happen after these atomic bombs. They really did not happen the way it was predicted. There was a massive media campaign showing that, yeah, so many children are being born with so much of defects that really did not hold up to scrutiny. Okay, even now these old Japanese people, they recall the fire bombings on these cities. They do not recall this kind of atomic weapon detonation, right? They don't recall that at all. The guy Galen Winsor, the safety expert from US nuclear power stations, he has been going around all over the place making many presentations, right? He showed a bottle of caffeine candies and another bottle he holds a uranium, and he handles it like the normal, right? He is handling it without any issue. And then he was showing with a Geiger counter that the caffeine bottle, candy bottle, has more radiation than the actual uranium bottle. And he was saying that he used to swim in the water used to cool radioactive material. And if it is really dangerous, he would have died many times over. And he says he usually carry around plutonium pieces in his pockets. Here is a screenshot I took from his video. He was showing the radiation coming out of the caffeine candies with this Geiger counter. And same goes for this nuclear disasters, right? You have Chernobyl, you have Fukushima disasters, and this is from New American. Even after releases in Japan, the amount of background radiation in Tokyo is still below the world average. Still below the world average. The article quoted Bob Berry of the UK's Royal College of Radiologists. The situation in Japan looks set to follow the pattern of Chernobyl, where fear of radiation did far more damage than the radiation itself. There was no radiation in Chernobyl. Okay, so some people went back just after 1 month after the disaster, and the entire planet kingdom and all kind of animals, they were thriving there happily. Okay, so this we do not have something called atomic bomb or nuclear bomb. They do not exist, but directed energy weapons do exist. Okay, they are very real, and they use that weapon very often. This photograph was taken during the California fires a few years ago. Okay, you can see that the fire has completely decimated the houses, including the RCC structures, including all the metals. They have been melted down to the earth. But these trees are standing around happily all around, right? Imagine these houses are burnt to a cinder, nothing is left totally, and these trees are standing up. Even they have green leaves on the top. How is that possible, right? Any person who looks at this photograph, apply some common sense, and it is immediately very apparent that these things were not caused by any forest fires. And in this photo, it is even more apparent. Look at this. These houses are completely decimated, okay? And look at this tree. At the very edge of it, this is fully green. And these houses are not even touched. Nothing. Absolutely. Not even a black soot has fallen onto them. Whereas these houses are completely decimated. Nothing is left standing. Okay. Now here is another aircraft. Okay, this is obviously a classic example of a directed energy weapon. And look at this aircraft. Okay, so this is HL7742. It's a French aircraft. It could not land properly, and then it hit the floor and then skidded off and then came out like this. They say that these burns on the top was because of the fuel burning. Okay, but obviously it is nothing to do with the fuel burning. Fuel is supposed to be in the wings and maybe underneath that, right? Why nothing happened to the wings at all? So what happened here? There is something that came from above and then it caused these burns. And you can see that the energy beam must have hit over here and then it burned through this much, and then the pulse stopped over here. And again the pulse hit over here again. The next pulse hit and then it caused this much of damage. Or it's the other way around. It hits the first pulse hit over here. The second pulse starts from here and then continues over here. Okay. So here is the inside photograph of this aircraft. If there was an internal fire, you would expect everything to be burnt down or uniformly burnt, right? That was not really the case. You can see that the seats in the middle are completely out. Nothing is left. But the seats on the side, there was only minimal damage because of relative burning, right? They're okay. They're absolutely fine. How is this possible, right? You have to really think about it. This happened just in 2013. Okay, so that's it on energy weapons. In fact, I had a couple of more amazing photographs which were taken in 1900s. I mean, very early 1900s and 1800s, and they have exact same kind of characteristics as these California fires. The decimation was exactly the same. Trees standing, houses completely brought to the ground. Okay, but that was in late 1800s. So this directed energy weapon has been in existence for a very long time. It's nothing new. Okay, so I'm going to present some evidence to speculate that we are actually devolving from an advanced civilization that existed just some time back. So what existed 150 years ago, we really don't know. Many things are not fitting in with the mainstream narrative. Okay, there are photographs, old photographs, paintings, and many artifacts that comes from the past. They reveal a completely different reality than what we are being told about these things. We seems to be devolving from an advanced civilization just 150 years ago. If you look at it, when US Army really entered Iraq, the first thing they did was go and destroy the museums and all the libraries. The Library of Alexandria, whatever was left of it, was completely destroyed. Nobody stole anything. Okay, so it was simply destroyed. It burnt down, and they bombed it and destroyed everything which was there in the museum. I think even the wars in the Middle East, they have an internal motive of destroying our past, the real past. And many of these old artifacts exhibit incredible precision in construction and rather very advanced technologies, right? Apart from huge sizes. See, look at this thing. This place is somewhere in Italy. I'm not sure what the name is. But if you really look at it, the complexity and the precision of it, it is really mind-boggling. You really cannot make this kind of structures with some copper chisel and a wooden mallet, right? It's not possible. Somebody has to conceive of it and then actually do it. My opinion is that none of these are handmade. These are made by robotic machines. If you look at the precision and flawlessness of this structure, it is impossible for someone to make it by hand. You look at this perfection of these gaps, right? This, I think it is Fibonacci series. Yeah, I think it is Fibonacci series. So it is just too perfect. It is just too precise and too perfect. Even look at this. This is in Iran. Okay, I hope it lasts for some more days so that some of us may get to actually see it in person. Obviously, this is not something you can do by hand. You can see the precision of it, the intense complexity of the whole thing, and the perfection of geometrical shapes. So, I don't think even if I pay $1 million to somebody today and tell them, okay, you have to recreate this, I don't think it is going to be an easy task recreating this kind of thing. It's an amazing stuff. And see, this is a repair kit from a workman from the late, not late, middle of 1800s, right? This is simply a piano repair kit. And you can see the perfection of it, right? There are so many tools. I think there are over some 150 or 200 tools, and everything has a place in it. And look at the complexity of these tools. It's amazing. Okay, so again, if possible, we can go through another full presentation on these things, how the history is not what we think it is. Okay, so let me just give you your pointers on giants. Look at this particular door. Okay, so you can see a person standing over here, a teeny mini character, and you can imagine the enormous size of this door. Okay, for what purpose do we really make these kind of doors? Right? Why? For what purpose? Is it for a elephant to go through? There were no elephants in this particular area. Even I think this is somewhere in Iran. So why? And also look at the perfection over here. Also, it's just too perfect, and beautiful geometric patterns and perfect proportions. Right? And you also see smaller doors on the side. Why is that? Why are these doors there when this big door is also there? So these are like some of the questions we don't have answers for. And look at this. This is a staircase, okay, but that is not the staircase humans can use. These are just too big, and the humans use the side staircase over here, which is tiny compared to this. This is not stepped agriculture. This is not any other. There is no other explanation other than these are simply steps. For whom whom were these steps made, right? Not for humans, that is for sure. Then what is the purpose? Who walked over these steps? We don't know. And look at this. This is from 1950s, the very early stages of photographs. This is a window, and look at the size and the architecture, the complexity and perfection of this building. Is amazing stuff. Okay, so this is a window, and these are the people. Okay, as you can see, these are like, there is no relationship between these people and this structure. This is way too advanced. It looks way too advanced for people still running around in bicycles, and they are too small too. It's really, they are very small. So who built these structures, right? This is a big question mark. The mainstream narrative of our recent people built it doesn't gel well with what we actually see in practice. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so here is another structure I found quite incredible. So they say that this is all rock formation, and the wind and water eroded all these things. But the very strange part is, nature do not make straight lines like this. Neither does it make straight lines, perfect straight lines, and with perfect thicknesses. It doesn't make things like this. My guess is that this is a wall. Okay, it is a wall of a building, a gigantic building, and these are upper structures on top of the building. So these are different layers of the, probably this is one floor, I guess. Maybe this is second floor, and so on. So there must be other floors down below, and probably this is the top of the building. They must have had some more structure. Okay, so I don't know what it is, but my speculation is this looks definitely like a artificial structure, and definitely not something natural. And look at this image somebody shared on a Facebook page. So you can see this small thing over here. It looks like a a tree which was cut and half of it was covered. So if you look at it nearby, it is that way, except that this is like 2 miles across, 2 or more miles across. A gigantic tree in today's standards. You can see other trees over here, very tiny compared to this one, right? Not only that, it is very well cut. Somebody cut it. It is not because of any natural processes eroding. It is cut. And so is this. Okay, how can we fool ourselves saying that something like this can form naturally due to erosion? You can see that the cut is at an angle. Is very nicely cut, and the surface is there, and it definitely looks like a tree trunk which was cut. And what about this? Do you really believe that this is somehow a natural erosion, or is this some kind of a natural rock formation? One has to be really silly to think that. I think it is clearly, it has all the marks of a tree, rather quite unmistakable, and it was cut with some kind of tool and technology which we do not know anything about. And here it is again. You can clearly see the marks of a tree lines inside, right? It is there, right there for us to see. Even then people say that this has nothing to do, I mean, these are all natural erosion and stuff like that. Utter nonsense. And again, it is cut, cleanly cut. From the entire thing it was cut. And so is this. You can see the tree structures around, and again cut. And I don't even know what this thing is. Is it some kind of a bone, or is it a tree which fell down? I have no idea what this is. And look at this. These are like hands. Some kind of a hand. The proportions are too good. As you can see. Definitely not pareidolia, whatever you call that, right? The imagination of things. Looking at a pattern. That is, these are not that. These are way beyond that. The proportions are unmistakable. You can see even the bump near the fingernail. It's not possible to say that this is what do you say, just a pattern and you are seeing things. No, it is not. This is an actual rock. People actually took a photo of this rock. You can clearly see that this is a hand. You have fingers over here. You have thumb over here. And this is a hand. Very, very close to your human hand. And here you can see people are going up this slope. You can see that this is your fingernails. Okay, so here is one nail, here is this one nail, and I think this is feet, because you can see the toenail over here. I think this is toe, and these are other fingers in the feet. Amazing stuff. Okay, so that's all I had. Again, I have so many photographs, something similar to this. I have been picking this up either myself from Google Earth, or there are groups on Facebook where they keep posting this kind of stuff. So it is really beyond what do you say, probability and speculation that these kind of giants actually existed in the past. We have no idea what they are. We have never been told about anything about these. And they, I think they did not, it is not like millions of years ago they existed. No, I think very possibly maybe a few thousand years. And I found some amazing patterns on Google Earth. Maybe that is for another day. Okay, there are a lot more scams to explore. We are running out of time for the day today. So 9/11 was an insider job. Dinosaurs never existed. Naturopathic doctors are being systematically murdered all over the world. If you have not noticed, go to Google and search out this. It is actually happening. GMO and pesticides are a major cause of cancer and other illnesses. All wars benefit only the top. Okay, so television was created for brainwashing of the masses specifically, and it is being done very, very effectively. Video games and movies and sports, they are all made to normalize violence, infighting and discord. So that organized resistance of common people to tyranny and rule is practically impossible. We do not have, the common people of today do not have the strength and coordination to actually resist anything, or they don't even know how to understand what real freedom means actually. The Federal Reserve is a private entity, as we have seen many times. Taxation is theft, and more interestingly, the false alien invasion is coming. In Bangalore, the number of alien vehicles which you can see in the sky, it has increased by 800% over the past few months. So we are living in very interesting times. Okay, Woody, the real reason you cannot see the levels of indoctrination, human conditioning and forced medication is because you have been successfully brainwashed, distracted and sedated by it all. And you have been messed up to infinity and beyond. Okay, so you have to really pull up the socks and start researching stuff. Fear is everything. Fear is the main means of control. Okay. That's it. So I have a bunch of references. So all the things I have talked about, you can find the references corresponding to those data points over here. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you very much.